What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the exact same team that I showcased in a previous video, actually the last video that I uploaded, and that's because I went on an insane run with this team. But today we're going to be highlighting GRUMPIG instead of Skeletorge, because GRUMPIG was an absolutely fantastic save swap on this team, and it has virtually no answer in this meta. Sure, there are ghosts, there are dark types, but guess what? It can hit both for super effective damage, and at worst, it can hit neutral in any of those bad matchups. So that's why we're taking a look at that Pokemon today. You may notice that I am wearing sunglasses inside, which is a little strange, and then I sound nasally as hell. That's just because my allergies are killing me. So you get sunglasses marked today because it's been a little bit rough. But yeah, without further ado, we can just hop into some battles. Alright, Pangoro into Ninetales. Now, obviously, if it's on Charm, this is a terrible lead, but we stay in to check the fast move, and they are actually on Powder Snow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to farm up to the close combat, we win CMP, and I bait with a Night Slash. I do grab a shield from my opponent, which is super nice, because now all I can do is farm back up to the close combat. This is exactly when they get to their next Weather Ball, because I baited, and we win CMP again. Is my opponent willing to commit 2 shields? They are. So now I have a decision to make, and I decide to let this go. We've grabbed both shields for my opponent, and now we have Skeletorge. Skeletorge is met with a Diggersby in the back, and now we can just come in with our Grumpig because we have super effective Dynamic Punch, and they have no shields remaining. We're going to overfarm here as much as we can. We're going to throw the Dynamic Punch right before they get to their next move. Dynamic Punch not quite enough to KO from this range, so we are going to respect the next Scorching Sands coming through here, and now we're just going to throw it right before they get to a Fire Punch. Dynamic Punch is enough to KO from that range, and back in comes the Ninetales, so I instantly switch to my Skeletorge. We now are able to make it to a Shadow Ball against the Dusknoir. That one-shots it, and now we have a Skeletorge against the Ninetales, so we are able to take that win. Sorry if I sound absolutely winded. I actually just paused the video, ran around, did some push-ups because I needed to free up these sinuses. I don't know what to tell you guys. But into the next match, we save switch into our Grumpig. And we lure out a Dusclops, which is okay. We are able to grab a shield with the Shadow Ball. And now we actually make it to a second Shadow Ball, which is super nice. It actually KOs. We win switch and grab a shield in that mid game, so that's pretty sweet. Obviously, we now have to align our Pangoro against this Marowak so that our Skeletorge can face the lead. That said, we get to a Night Slash. That should never be a CMP tie. We should always outpace there, but because we got 1 turn lag, it is a CMP tie. However, we still should be able to outpace, and actually no, not quite. I guess they had 1 residual. But that's okay. In comes the Bone Club. In comes the Primeape. We are going to full send the close combat. We actually threw a little too late there. That allows them to get to a Rage Fist, but Rage Fist resisted. It's not enough to KO. We actually go for an Undercharge in the close combat, leave it in 1 Incinerate farm down range. Now we get the Incinerate through, and now that actually allows us to outpace the Marowak, get to a Shadow Ball, and now Shadow Ball from this range KOs before they're able to get to a Bone Club. We probably would have lived a Bone Club. But if they farmed up to the Shadow Bone, then they could have outpaced and won, so that could have been risky. Great lead in the next match. They have a Alolan Sandslash and a safe switch into a Gyarados. Now I am just going for a Dynamic Punch because I expected my opponent to shield, and they don't. So now we're in a pretty difficult situation here. Obviously, Grumpig is my only answer to a Gyarados. Not that I was expecting to see one, but we are able to maintain switch. And the reason I'm okay with committing 2 shields in that mid game is because I have double super effective Dynamic Punches. So if my opponent wants their Sandslash alive, they're going to have to commit both shields. But they actually do commit both shields, and that actually allows us to instantly pivot into our Skeletorge because I wanted to be up energy on the Skeletorge. And now all I have to do is click my charge move. I have 2 answers for the Sandslash. We get the Desari Voice, that's enough to KO the Dragonite. They do overfarm here. They are going to be able to connect with just an Ice Punch, which is enough to KO. And now at this point, it's just coming in with Pangoro. I can eat one charge move, to be completely honest, but why would I when I have a low HP Grumpig that's still alive? So I go for the catch. I'm successful with it. It's a drill run. They undercharge, but even with that undercharge, I still have the Night Slash loaded. And at this point, they are in Night Slash range, so Night Slash is enough to KO the Sand Slash, and we get an unnecessary boost to win that game. Okay, Tinkaton in the lead of the next match. This is a tough lead. So we're going to safe switch into our Grumpig, and we actually do make it to a dynamic punch pretty much right as they're getting to their play rough there. We can let this play rough go. It won't hurt too bad, and they actually have a pretty great answer in for it. That being said, we do have super effective coverage here, so maybe that's why my opponent didn't want to come in immediately, because after the side waves it might have been enough to KO. However, we can now just come in with Pangoro, get the Karate Chop farm down, come out loaded with energy, and we can probably instantly pivot into our Skeletorge. But before we do that, we're going to farm up to the close combat, and we do grab that shield, which is nice because now we can just come in with Skeletorge. I have to let the first go because the second and third will come quick, and they will be boosted. And my opponent is correctly over farming here. I believe actually they threw it as pretty much as soon as they got it, but this does allow us to get to a disarming voice to at least grab that final shield back from my opponent before I commit my final shield. And I will just shield this up. I should be able to get the Incinerate farm down. So what they should do is instantly pivot, and they do instantly pivot, and I tried to read that, but I thought they were going to instantly throw a charge move. I thought maybe potentially they were at the bulldozer. No, because they dumped their energy. I'm not really sure why I pivoted there. But either way, we're able to Incinerate farm down both the Tinkaton and the Primeape, so we're able to take that win. Carving on the lead. This is actually an okay lead because they're a Rock Throw user, which is resisted on Pangoro, and Close Combat is neutral because of the Rock typing. So I'm going to farm up to back Close Combats. I'm going to connect with one and then bank the other one for later. And then I'm going to come in with my Grumpig. I am met with a Dusk Noir, so I'm baiting with a dynamic punch. I grab the shield, and that actually almost allows me to outpace with Shadow Ball. They're at back-to-back moves, so I have to let this go. But I actually have a Night Slash on my Pangoro, so I can just instantly go for that. And that actually does grab a shield. That obviously shouldn't be a CMP tie, but we did get one turn lag. They try and go for a Night Slash catch onto their Carbink. They're unsuccessful. I will respect this, but it is a resisted power gem. But now all I'm going to do is I'm going to farm up to back-to-back charge moves again and go for the close combat. And then I'm going to watch for what comes in. If it's the Dusk Noir, then I'm going to instantly throw the Night Slash, but it's a Grumpig. And so I'm going to connect with one. In comes the second one. I'm over farming here in case my opponent tries to go for a catch. But I do throw before they get to their charge move. Night Slash connects, and it looks like Skeletor is going to take this game off because 2 Karate Chops more, and I'm able to make it to a Night Slash to KO the Dusk Noir. And once again, we get an unnecessary boost to end that game. Pangoro into Grumpig. This is an awkward lead, but we do like to play this one out because otherwise we are down energy in a Grumpig mirror or on Skeletor where they can get to the Shadow Ball quicker than we can. So we're just going to stay in this matchup. We have a huge pacing advantage. We're going to always just click the move pretty much as soon as we get it, fishing for that boost, because if we get a boost, that makes this matchup a lot easier because we can actually Karate Chop, farm them down. But it looks like that's not going to be the case here. So we are going to basically farm up to nearly back-to-back. We're only 2 Karate Chops away. Is my opponent willing to commit 2 shields? They are not. So now we have Pangoro into a Carbink. So we're going to do exactly what we did in that last match. Farm up to back-to-back close combats. We're going to chip here with one of them, and then you're going to instantly pivot into our Grumpig. What is in the back but an Amoonguss? So this is a great bait out because we have super effective side waves, and we have a Skeletor in the back that will do well into the Amoonguss. They are going to overfarm here, and they're going to play to a CMP tie that surprisingly they do not win. We're able to connect the Shadow Ball. That gets the KO. Can we also get through a Dynamic Punch? We can. My opponent tried to go for the farm down, but they're not quite able to get there. Dynamic Punch KOs, and once again, Skeletor doesn't even need to play the game. Okay, great lead in the next match. We've got Pangoro into Furret, and my opponent is staying in. So something is severely wrong with my opponent's team. We are going to overfarm here. We're just going to go for the Night Slash because we kind of want to grab that shield without debuffing our defense. We do grab a shield, and I can live one Swift, so I am going to let it go. I'm now going to throw the close combat on CMP with the next Swift. So if my opponent wants to keep their Furret alive, they're going to have to shield this, but no, we actually grab Switch advantage and shield advantage, but I'm going to instantly give up Switch because I lowered my defense and I was worried that they would come in with something that was a bad matchup, and they did, and that actually allows them to get a huge farm down, which is pretty unfortunate because now I'm in a pretty situation. I can just come in with Pangoro. I do have to kind of shield this, or am I going to go 2 shield Skeletor? I'm going to go 2 shield Skeletor. A resistant Shadow Punch actually is enough to KO from that range. Here comes the first Shadow Punch. I'm just going to shield this up. Nothing really wants to take energy from the Skeletor in this meta. And there it is. It's a Grumpig in the back. So I'm going to farm up to 100 energy. I'm throwing the Shadow Ball. Is this enough to KO? It is. And now I have a Disarming Voice loaded for the Dusknoir. And from at 1 HP, this is going to be enough to KO. And Skeletor is able to sweep that end game. Okay, into the next match, we've got Pangoro into Guzzlord. Now, this is an okay lead, but I don't like baiting here because I don't want a Guzzlord to call it. So we throw the close combat, they do correctly shield, and it looks like they're actually going to be able to get a full farm down now, so I may as well grab both shields. Here comes the second close combat, and we now are going to pivot into our Grumpig. We have to take one charge move. It is a crunch, which is actually worse because now I'm pretty much forced to shield this up. It is just the Dragon Claw, but they try and go for a catch onto their Ticketon. Either way, I was going to throw a Dynamic Punch, which is neutral damage here, which is okay. And now we can connect with a second Dynamic Punch for the Ticketon. And that does pretty nice damage, and we snipe with the Skeletor. 1 Incinerate is enough to farm them down, which is absolutely massive. They don't get any of that energy. Back in comes the Guzzlord. They try to throw on CMP, so I actually go for 1 over, and now it's the Jellicent in the back. And unfortunately, Jellicent's a little bulky, so it can actually live that plus the Incinerate. So I'm actually forced to throw even more energy, or else they would get to a Surf. So here comes a Disarming Voice, and now I just need to make it to another Disarming Voice. In fact, I can just get an Incinerate farm down, and we are able to take that win. Okay, into the next match, we've got a Corsola on the lead. This is a pretty great lead because everything is resisted, but they actually come in with a Guzzlord, and now I'm going to go for a close combat bait of a Night Slash. And we get a boost, which is pretty nice because now we can kind of just stay in this matchup. Even though we don't have a great answer for Corsola in the back. And even though Night Slash is resisted, it's double boosted, so I might grab a shield from my opponent. No, we just get the knockout, and they actually have a Doshmun in the back. And unfortunately, now they're going to do some pretty decent chip with these Astonishes. Sorry, I'm out of breath again. I had to run around again. But I'm able to come in with a Grumpig after grabbing that shield because now I can preserve some energy on my Skeletor, which I might need later in the match, and now I can also make it to a Shadow Ball, living the Nightshade, which is huge, and that's enough to KO, and now it's just a Skeletor with a shield and energy advantage against a Doshmun, so my opponent just resigns the match. Great lead in the next match. We've got a Greninja, so we have super effective fast and charge moves. They come in with a Tinkaton safe switch, and that Tinkaton is met with our Skeletor. This is a great matchup because obviously Fairy is resistant on the fire. However, Tinkaton has great coverage in Bulldoze, and my opponent is running it, which is the correct moveset in my opinion. Looks like we're not quite gonna. We might have been able to get the full farm down, but I didn't really want to go over 100 energy. But maybe I should have, because then I would have come out with virtually 2 Disarming Voices, which would have been nice. but my opponent lets me get to 2 disarming voices either way. So yeah, in comes the second. That's 2 shields we just grabbed. And we can just kind of keep alignment here. I am naturally going to get 1 turn bring in when I bring my Pangoro in, which is unfortunate. But they connect with a Hydra Cannon. It is a Togetic in the back, so they correctly baited out our fire type at the very least. But even with a Dazzling Gleam connecting, we can overfarm pretty significantly here. This is only enough for like a Psyshock, and I assume my opponent is running Psyshock, and they are. And now I can just connect with a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will do some pretty significant damage, but it will not be enough to KO. And it looks like I just can't get the farm down, so I'm forced to throw a double resisted dynamic punch. It does KO, and now I just 2 karate chops away from a close combat. We survive on literally 1 HP. Close combat KOs the Greninja, and we're able to take that win. Okay, into the next match, we've got another Corsola on the lead. Astonish, Nightshade, Power Jump, it's all resisted, so we're definitely staying in this matchup. Even though our Karate Chops and Close Combats are double resisted, that Dark typing is super useful in this mirror match. They come in with their own Pangoro, so I'm going to farm up to a Close Combat and then bait with a Night Slash, and now I'm going to instantly pivot into a Skeleturge, because my Skeleturge can take 1 super effective Night Slash, no problem. Obviously 2 it would not like to take. And of course they get the boost. I don't think it's going to help them too much in this matchup because their fast move is still double resisted. We can still get the full farm down after 1 more Incinerate. They come back in with their Corsola. I'm going to full send the Shadow Ball here. No point in baiting. We do take the knockout, and then it's a Togetic in the back, so my opponent just resigns the match. Okay, Pangoro into Dusknoir. Pangoro picking up some great leads in these matchups, but they come in with a Swalot, and we have a pretty great response here in Grumpig. So Grumpig obviously has super effective Psywaves in this matchup. Come to think of it, I would argue Skeleturge is actually a better response than Grumpig, because even though we're taking super effective from the Mud Shots, both Sludge and Ice Beam are resisted, so you wouldn't have to shield anything in this matchup. So maybe, like looking back, I would change how I do that, and both of them can come out with Shadow Ball energy loaded. So I am going to full send the Shadow Ball. I may as well grab that shield back, and not quite able to make it to a second move. That's okay. They can probably grab a shield from me because a Dynamic Punch would instantly knock us out. They do full send it, which is nice, and then they have a Fairy and Florges in the back, and we have a great answer here. So it's actually a good thing that we did not send our Skeleturge into that matchup, because we have a great matchup here. Trailblaze, Disarming Voice, Moonblast, it's all resisted on Skeleturge. And we actually grab a shield from my opponent, and then they throw right away, expecting me to throw my charge move. And they actually almost KO with that Moonblast, but I'm able to connect with a Disarming Voice that gets the knockout, and now we can just come in with our Panda and make it to the Night Slash. Not quite enough to KO, but we still are able to outpace because we had residual energy, and Night Slash from this range will most certainly KO the Dusknoir, and we're able to take that win. Tough opponent in the next match, and they are leading Primeape into our Pangoro, which is a bad lead, so we instantly save switch into our Grumpig, and we're met with a Sand Slash, which is a little bit interesting because obviously, even though they have super effective Shadow Claws, we have double super effective Dynamic Punch for coverage, and they are going to full set a Drill Run, which means I can most certainly outpace in this mid game here. Here comes another Dynamic Punch, so now I'm able to grab 2 shields from my opponent, and I'm even able to make it to a third before they're able to get to the double up. So my opponent just lets that go because they have to, and then they instantly resign the match because they made a huge mistake, and we're able to take that win. Into the final match of the video, we're leading into a Quagsire. It's a pretty neutral lead, but they actually save switch into a Togetic, maybe potentially trying to bait out something that their Pokemon in the back doesn't want to see. Hopefully, I mean, if it's a Tinkaton, then they probably should have gone the other direction, but we can actually live 2 Psyshocks, and they have no ability to farm us down because Fairy Wind is resisted on the fire typing of Skeleturge. We're able to make it to a Shadow Ball that is enough to KO. Are they going to come back in with that Quagsire? They are. Does Quagsire like to eat Shadow Balls is the question. They do, actually, and then they get the full farm down. So they do have an energy lead here, but because they safe swapped in a neutral matchup, I know they have another answer to Pangoro in the back, so I'm letting this go, and I'm instantly pivoting into my Grumpig, and it's actually an Alolan Ninetales, which isn't a great answer because they are on Powder Snow, but they have successfully baited out my Fire type. But this is an okay matchup for the Grumpig because we live one Weather Ball and we have pretty great pacing, and they cannot live a Dynamic Punch, so they are going to have to shield everything here. And look, we're still in the green, so we know one Weather Ball will not be enough to KO, and they do have a pacing advantage, so I am forced to let this go. And now I just kind of have to watch for a switch. In fact, I'm letting this go. I'm banking in the ability for our Pangoro to sweep. I was going to go for a Night Slash baits, but instead I'm going to go for an undercharge because they caught in the Quagsire. That lets me get to another Night Slash, and now I'm able to outpace to the close combat, and from this range it will most certainly KO the Alolan Ninetales, and we're able to take that win. But yeah, that is the same team once again. It's just this team is so strong. If you haven't tried this team, I highly recommend it. I just think it's literally the best team you can run in this meta. I cannot believe I climbed like 300 elo in 2 days with this team. I can't wait to keep running it. Obviously, this whole situation of, like, you know, my face is not great, but apologies for that. I hope the video was still enjoyable. That's going to be it for me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.